Hello everyone, I'm Nivina Maniraj and welcome to another episode of RHB Money Chat, where we provide you with tips and insights on how to better manage your finances. Joining us this week is Mr. Bernard Yap, a partner at EY Tax Consultants, and our topic of discussion for this week has to do with the economic stimulus packages that has been introduced by the government of Malaysia in order to combat the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this episode will be particularly useful for business owners who are looking for advice on how to better manage their cash flow. Thank you for joining us, Bernard. It's great to have you here with us. So let's dive right in, shall we? The Malaysian government has introduced quite a number of economic stimulus packages this year in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So to start things off, maybe we can have your take on the overall of the economic stimulus package.
Thanks, Niv, and also thank you, RHB, for having me here. You are right. Ever since the pandemic started in March 2020, the Malaysian government have come up with various measures to support individuals and also business enterprises during these hard times. We have to be bold. We have to make sure that business enterprises are given the support and also financial assistance to individuals during these hard times, because the economic recovery during this time is very important for the overall Malaysian economy.
That's right.
Yeah. So we've seen deferment of installment tax payments for business enterprises. We've also seen wage subsidy program coming up to help both business enterprises and their employees. We've also seen in terms of temporary exemption from HRDF levy, which will elevate better cash flow for business enterprises.
Right.
In terms of individuals like you and me, we've been able to enjoy some form of reduction in terms of our utility bills. Anyone also looking at changing cars, there's also the sales tax exemption.
Right.
There's also, in terms of anyone needing liquidity, there's also RPGT exemption as well. So I would say very much holistically, a good round of both tax and fiscal measures introduced by the government, very focused in terms of individuals, both B40 and M40, business enterprises, SMEs, and also specific targeted industries that are going through challenging times during this pandemic.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I think it's quite a holistic measure on their part. But also, you mentioned earlier about the wage subsidy program, which is aimed at easing the burden of employers and on how to better manage their cash flow. So I think recently the WSP 2.0 was recently announced. So maybe you can clarify a bit more on this.
Yeah, very good program. The wage subsidy program ultimately looks at stabilizing a business enterprise to make sure that it has enough cash flow to go through during these hard times of pandemic. And the other flip side of the benefit is also making sure that they continue to retain the employees during these hard times.
Correct.
There's no retrenchment.
Yes.
There's no reduction in terms of the wage for these individuals. So both the corporate enterprise and the individuals will be able to enjoy this benefit.
Right.
Yeah. So for every employee that continues to be retained during these hard times, the government is actually offering up to 600 ringgit per month for these business enterprises.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually started back in April 2020 and was supposed to expire in September 2020. I guess the pandemic continued to be hard times in Malaysia, and the government has decided to extend it for a further 3 months.
Right.
The biggest challenge, I guess, for all the business enterprise is to how to redetermine there is actually a reduction of 30% of their revenue. When this started and this was introduced in April 2020, obviously the biggest challenge was, do we measure it against on a month-to-month basis, or do we compare the first 3 months against the first 3 months of prior year? So all these teething problems, I would say, has been sorted out with the Ministry of Finance, and a lot of business enterprises that I am aware of has been able to enjoy this wage subsidy program.
Right.
Yeah. So furthermore, if you were not aware of the this wage subsidy program, you are still able to enjoy it. You can still be part of it, and it's not limited just for the next 3 months. For those who are coming on board for the first time, the government has decided that you should be entitled for up to 6 months.
Oh, that's great.
So the 3 months is for the existing taxpayers or business enterprises that have been enjoying it. But newcomers coming on board, you actually can enjoy it for up to 6 months.
Okay. Recently, there was the Kita Prehatin announcement by the Prime Minister of Malaysia, where they announced the special Prehatin grant, which was aimed at helping the micro businesses alleviate their difficulties and also with their cash flow. So maybe you can elaborate a bit more on this and how the small micro businesses can apply for this grant.
Yeah, I would say this is a very innovative measure, very focused on the micro SMEs. It is important for Malaysia is because micro SMEs, I would say, represent about 50% of the overall economy.
Right.
So it is the right measure, it's the right focus towards making sure that these business enterprises continue to be able to survive during this pandemic.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously the biggest challenge here is to make sure that these individuals are aware of this financial assistance. These individuals were looking at business enterprises that are earning up to 300,000 ringgit per year.
Okay.
And does not employ more than 4 employees.
All right.
Right? So how do we then come forward and enjoy this? These individuals obviously needs to make sure that their business operations today are either registered with the SSM or any other ministry that requires licensing for their business enterprises.
Right.
So with this documentation, come forward to MOF, and MOF is also going to grant you a one-off financial assistance up to 3,000 ringgit per micro SME.
Okay, so just to reiterate, I think the most important point here is they have to make sure that they have all the important documents in order to enjoy this grant. Yes.
Like I said, micro SMEs represent close to 50% of the economy.
Correct.
That's going to be a huge financial burden from a Malaysian government perspective to be able to support them. So obviously, effective supervision to make sure that these funds are channeled to the right business enterprises that requires the support.
And so that is not abused as well.
Correct.
Okay, Bernard, next up, maybe you can elaborate a bit more on the more notable tax measures that was announced by the government that are aimed at promoting investment and also stimulating the economy.
Yeah. So we talked so far on measures that have been introduced for SMEs, micro SMEs and individuals, right?
Right.
So overall, there are the others business enterprises which will continue to operate during these hard times, and those entities in Malaysia today, if they are willing to continue to modernize or expand their business operations, they will be given an investment tax allowance of 60% for the next 3 years.
Oh wow.
So the next 3 years, yes, we're not talking about just 2020,
right,
because we have the post effect of the pandemic.
Correct.
Not that we know when it's going to end, but post up to 2022, any expansion, modernization of your business operations, the government has decided that they will give a 60% investment tax allowance for these taxpayers.
That's quite a big tax exemption, actually.
Correct. So something additional that you look forward to. There are also looking to multinationals who are willing to relocate their manufacturing and business operations to Malaysia. We find this timely because of the current trade disputes between US and China.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, so we hope there is some benefits coming to Malaysia that business enterprises, multinationals are willing to relocate from China to Malaysia.
Right.
Yeah. So if that is the case, and if their capital expenditure and commitment is more than 300 million in Malaysia, they are willing to give a 1-for-1, which means that for every ringgit you invest in Malaysia, we give you a double claim for it.
That's
so
quite
it's a
impressive.
good, very financial assistance to actually benefit bringing multinationals to relocate to Malaysia at this moment.
That's right.
Yeah. So in addition, any other business organization, if you continue to make renovations or upwards improvement in terms of your office or anything that you need to sustain during these hard times, the government is also giving us a one-off 300,000 ringgit deduction in terms of the way you're going to claim it in your tax returns.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, the last bit, new SMEs coming up during this hard time. You didn't expect the pandemic and everything. There is also tax rebates given to you. These are for new SMEs incorporated in the year 2020 itself.
Okay.
So you'd see, our Malaysian government is very focused. MNCs, you get some incentives. Existing business operations, you get some form of incentives as well. And new SMEs coming in, there are some things also for you.
So there's something basically for everyone.
That's right.
So, Bernard, in light of this COVID-19 pandemic and how volatile things are, do you think it's prudent for individuals to revisit their wealth planning strategies in these unprecedented times?
Yeah, I mean, as an individual, I guess, cash flow and liquidity is going to be very important, not just for our business enterprises where we have business aspirations, but also for our family requirements as well.
Correct.
So for those with business enterprises and you need to liquidate some of your investments in order to finance your business operations, there is a real property gains tax exemption in terms of any sale of residential properties between now to next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so the additional tax savings will benefit you to sustain and finance your business operations. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the flip side, individuals who are looking to diversify some of their investment portfolio.
Right.
You see during this hard time, share market may be up or down. And if you do intend to look into investing into real properties, especially residential properties, there is stamp duty exemption for you on the SPA agreement, plus also loan agreements.
Wow.
So this is important. Why? It's because the Malaysian government is trying to make sure that it is able to sustain the construction industry. It is one of our major industry, a backbone to our economy.
That's right.
And we hope that they can continue to be able to operate during these hard times. And obviously, any purchase of new properties will help to sustain the construction industry during the pandemics.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Bernard, now let's move on to the flexible working arrangement topic. So up to 500,000 ringgit worth of double tax deduction claims per year up to 3 years will be given to employers who actually initiate this flexible work arrangement, right? So in Malaysia, I think the predominant idea that everyone has is that when you say flexible work arrangement, the first thing that they always think about is working from home. So what do you think about this perception? Is it true?
It's a new norm. I would say it's a new norm. Obviously prior to COVID, flexible working arrangement may not be a new thing or may not be an acceptable thing to the Malaysian household. So with the pandemic started in March, a lot of us started working from home and we had technology to help us to support that. But flexible working arrangement is not just purely on working from home.
Right.
There is also in terms of very flexible hours coming in and out of the office. There could be flexible days in terms of what suits you.
Right.
There could be compressed hours that is also there. And there's also flexible retirement times as well.
Okay.
Right? So it fits not just the younger generation, but also the elder generation in terms of how they want to plan how this flexible working arrangement is. Talent Corp has been very supportive. And Ernst Young worked with Talent Corp in drafting up the new guidelines. And I guess over the next few years, they will continue to update and enhance what is the definition of flexible working arrangement. So at this moment, I would say it's not just purely from working from home.
Right.
There's a lot more other opportunities and other measures that has been introduced by Talent Corp for flexible working arrangement.
Mm-hmm. So I think it also has to do with the change of mindset about what the traditional working environment looks like in the Malaysian setting, right?
It is. Where today you see business enterprises continue to invest in technology, and technology becomes the most important tool in terms of flexible working arrangement.
Correct.
All of us now can do work or do some kind of activities via our handphone.
Yeah.
Not just purely having to do it on a laptop, but with handphones and everything, we are becoming more and more flexible. So hopefully this is something that we want to be more into in the years to come, because efficiency can be achieved via flexible working arrangement.
Correct. Okay, Bernard, is there any last pieces of advice you'd like to leave us before we end our session for today?
We have discussed quite a bit of our measures and also introductions by the government. So hopefully everyone is aware of what is available, what has been introduced by the government, and which regulators and government agencies that are able to support business enterprises and individuals to all these measures. I guess what is important is that at the end of the day, we need the financial liquidity, we need the money to be able to sustain and survive these pandemic times.
Correct.
Let's all work together. If you've got any clarification, anything that you need, there is always the Ministry of Finance that will be able to support us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess the last bit here is we are going through challenging times. All of us got to be working together on that. One bright spot coming up, I would say, is that the Malaysian government will be introducing and announcing the budget 2021 on the 6th of November.
That's right.
So hopefully all of us will see more and more goodies coming out that will be able to bring us to 2021. We've also got the US presidential elections coming up.
Correct.
Which I would say that would be having an indirect impact to the Malaysian economy. And I guess the other bit is whatever happening around ASEAN will always having a direct impact to us in terms of growth and be able to work together within the ASEAN community to survive this pandemic.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Bernard. It was great having you here.
Thank you for having me here.
And for those of you who are looking to get started on businesses, or if you need any sort of advice on how to manage your business cash flows, we at RHB are always more than happy to assist you in any way that we can. If you have any business solutions related questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. Or if you'd like to find out more on our business solutions, please follow the link below. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. And until the next episode of RHB Money Chat, stay safe and I'll see you again soon.